Discovery. The Galactic Survey Ship Elucidator drifted through the inky void of unexplored space, its sensors probing the cosmos for signs of anything noteworthy. Captain Zorax Quinla, a tall, slender Xylothian with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes, sat in the command chair, his gaze fixed on the main view screen. "Anything to report?" he asked, his voice betraying a hint of boredom. They had been surveying this sector for cycles now with little to show for it. His science officer, a Krellian named Sivara, looked up from her console, her antennae twitching with excitement. "Actually, Captain, I think I found something. A planet, not too far off our current course." Zorax leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What do the scans show?" Sivara's expression shifted from excitement to puzzlement as she read the data. "It's strange, sir. The planet appears to be a Class 13 Deathworld." A murmur rippled through the bridge. Class 13 worlds were the stuff of cautionary tales, planets so hostile that even the most robust species gave them a wide berth. "A Deathworld," Zorax echoed, his brow furrowing. "Out here?" "Yes, sir," Sivara confirmed. "High gravity, volatile tectonic activity, extreme weather patterns, toxic atmosphere. It checks all the boxes." The captain shook his head in disbelief. What a find this was. A Class 13 world, uncharted and unexplored. It was the sort of discovery that could make a career or end one. "Bring us in closer," he ordered. "I want detailed scans of the surface." As the Elucidator approached the planet, its sensors painted a picture of a world that seemed to actively resist life. Roiling oceans of acid, continent-spanning storms, and a landscape pockmarked with volcanic activity and tectonic upheaval. It was a wonder that anything could survive in such a hostile environment. And yet, as the scans deepened, a shocking discovery was made. Amidst the chaos and destruction, there were signs of intelligent life. Cities, infrastructure, even evidence of primitive space travel. "Impossible," Zorax breathed, staring at the readouts in disbelief. Nothing could live down there. Nothing. But the evidence was undeniable. Somehow, against all odds and expectations, a species had not only survived on this death world, but had begun to thrive. What manner of beings could endure such conditions? Sivara wondered aloud, her voice filled with equal parts awe and trepidation. Zorax leaned back in his chair, his mind racing with the implications of this find. A sentient species on a Class 13 world. It defied belief. He knew that this discovery would change everything. The galactic community would have to be informed. First contact protocols would need to be initiated. The risks were immense, but so too were the potential rewards. For now, though, all he could do was stare at the view screen, marveling at the tenacity of life and the surprises that the universe still held. "Maintain orbit," he said at last, his voice filled with determination, "and prepare a message beacon. It's time we introduced ourselves to our new neighbors." First contact. The decision to initiate contact with the life forms on the Class 13 Deathworld was not made lightly. Zorax spent hours in conference with his senior staff, debating the risks and merits of such an action. "We know nothing about them," cautioned Tolvin, his security chief. "They could be hostile, violent. Reaching out to them could put the entire crew at risk. Or," countered Sivara, "they could be peaceful. Imagine what we could learn from a species that has managed to thrive under such conditions. The scientific potential is staggering." Zorax listened to the arguments, his mind torn. He knew that Tolvin was right, that there were inherent dangers in making contact with an unknown species, but Sivara's points were equally valid. If these beings had managed to build a civilization on a Class 13 world, they must possess knowledge and abilities far beyond anything the galactic community had encountered before. In the end, it was that potential for learning and growth that swayed him. The galactic community had stagnated in recent millennia, its advancement slowed by complacency and a lack of new challenges. This Deathworld species, Whatever they were, represented an opportunity for change and progress. "We will make contact," he announced, his voice filled with a mix of trepidation and excitement. "But we will proceed with caution. Sivara, I want you to craft a message. Something simple, peaceful. An introduction and an invitation for dialogue." The science officer nodded, her antennae already twitching with ideas. "Tolvin, I need you to review our security protocols. Prepare for any eventuality. I don't anticipate hostility, but we must be ready for it nonetheless." The security chief saluted crisply, his face set in grim determination. As the crew set to work, Zorax found himself pacing the length of the bridge, his mind consumed by thoughts of what was to come. He had made first contact before, but never under circumstances like these. Never with a species that had evolved on a world that seemed designed to snuff out life at every turn. Hours passed as Sivara crafted the message and Tolvin fortified the ship's defenses. The tension on the bridge was palpable, everyone aware of the magnitude of what they were about to do. Finally, Sivara looked up from her console. "Message ready, Captain. Shall I send it?" Zorax took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever would come next. "Send it." The message, a complex series of mathematical sequences and universal constants designed to convey peaceful intent, beamed down to the planet's surface. And then they waited. The response, when it came, was not what anyone had expected. Instead of a similar sequence or even a primitive radio signal, the reply came in the form of clear, fluent Zidolothian, the lingua franca of the galactic community. "Greetings," the voice said, warm and welcoming despite the slight distortion of the transmission. "We are the humans of Earth. We have been watching your ship, and we welcome you in peace. We invite you to visit our world and learn of our ways, as we wish to learn of yours." Zorax exchanged a look of utter shock with Sivara. Not only were these beings intelligent, they were linguistically gifted and had clearly been observing the elucidator for some time. How is this possible?" he stammered, his composure momentarily shaken. The voice on the other end chuckled softly. "We have many stories to share, friend. Stories of tenacity, ingenuity, and the indomitable spirit of humanity. We look forward to sharing them with you." And with that, the transmission ended, leaving the bridge crew in stunned silence. They had expected many things from this mission: danger, hostility, perhaps even indifference. But this? A welcome and an invitation from a species that had already proven itself to be full of surprises. It was beyond anything they could have imagined. The human condition. The journey down to the surface of Earth was a tense one, the shuttle shaking and groaning as it passed through the planet's thick, turbulent atmosphere. Zorax gripped the armrests of his seat tightly, his eyes fixed on the view screen. Beside him, Sivara was practically vibrating with excitement, her scientific curiosity overriding any sense of fear. Tolvin, on the other hand, sat rigidly, his hand never straying far from his sidearm. As they broke through the cloud cover, the true nature of the planet became apparent. The landscape was a patchwork of extremes: scorching deserts, frozen tundras, vast oceans roiled by perpetual storms. And yet, amidst this chaos, there were signs of life. Vast cities sprawled across the continents, connected by webs of roads and glowing with the light of civilization. The shuttle touched down on a landing pad on the outskirts of one of these cities, and the crew disembarked with a mix of trepidation and wonder. They were greeted by a delegation of humans, tall bipedal creatures with a startling diversity of appearances. "Welcome to Earth," said the leader of the delegation, a tall, dark-skinned male with a warm smile. "I am Ambassador Kobe Mensa. On behalf of all humanity, I greet you." Zorax stepped forward, his hand outstretched in the universal gesture of peaceful greeting. "I am Captain Zorax Quinla of the Galactic Survey, Ship Elucidator. We come in peace, seeking understanding." As the formalities of first contact gave way to more substantial dialogue, the crew of the Elucidator began to learn the story of humanity. It was a tale of struggle and triumph, of a species that had clawed its way up from the primordial muck of a Deathworld to reach the stars. The humans spoke of their history, of the countless wars and conflicts that had nearly torn their civilization apart. They spoke of the natural disasters, the plagues and famines, the countless challenges that had beset them at every turn. "But we endured," Ambassador Mensa said, pride evident in his voice. "Each challenge, each struggle, it made us stronger. It forced us to adapt, to innovate, to come together as a species." Zorax listened in fascination, his mind trying to wrap itself around the concept. The idea that adversity could be a source of strength, that the very challenges that should have wiped out the humans had instead forged them into something extraordinary. Civ Era was equally enthralled, her scientific mind whirring with the implications. "Your technology," she said, gesturing to the towering skyscrapers and sleek vehicles that dotted the cityscape. "It's incredibly advanced, especially for a species from a Deathworld. How did you manage it?" Mensa chuckled. "Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. When your world is actively trying to kill you, you learn to be resourceful. You learn to turn obstacles into opportunities." As the conversation continued, the crew of the Elucidator found themselves increasingly in awe of the humans. Here was a species that had not just survived, but thrived in the face of unimaginable adversity. They had taken the challenges of their world and used them as a crucible to forge themselves into something stronger, something resilient. It was a humbling realization, and one that left Zorax with a profound sense of respect for these unlikely survivors. And yet, even as he marveled at their achievements, a part of him couldn't help but wonder. The humans had risen far on their own, but what heights might they reach with the knowledge and resources of the galactic community at their disposal? What might they become if their indomitable spirit was given free rein among the stars? It was a thought both exhilarating and terrifying, and one that would shape the course of the galaxy for cycles to come. "But we endured," Ambassador Mensa said, pride evident in his voice. "Each challenge, each struggle, it made us stronger. It forced us to adapt, to innovate, to come together as a species." Zorax listened in fascination, his mind trying to wrap itself around the concept. The idea that adversity could be a source of strength, that the very challenges that should have wiped out the humans had instead forged them into something extraordinary. Civ Era was equally enthralled, her scientific mind whirring with the implications. "Your technology," she said, gesturing to the towering skyscrapers and sleek vehicles that dotted the cityscape. "It's incredibly advanced, especially for a species from a Deathworld. How did you manage it?" Mensa chuckled. "Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. When your world is actively trying to kill you, you learn to be resourceful. You learn to turn obstacles into opportunities." As the conversation continued, the crew of the Elucidator found themselves increasingly in awe of the humans. Here was a species that had not just survived, but thrived in the face of unimaginable adversity. They had taken the challenges of their world and used them as a crucible to forge themselves into something stronger, something resilient. It was a humbling realization, and one that left Zorax with a profound sense of respect for these unlikely survivors. And yet, even as he marveled at their achievements, a part of him couldn't help but wonder. The humans had risen far on their own, but what heights might they reach with the knowledge and resources of the galactic community at their disposal? What might they become if their indomitable spirit was given free rein among the stars? It was a thought both exhilarating and terrifying, and one that would shape the course of the galaxy for cycles to come. Revelations. As the days passed, and the crew of the Elucidator spent more time among the humans, their initial awe gave way to a deeper understanding. Through countless conversations and shared experiences, they began to piece together a more comprehensive picture of the human condition. They learned of the humans' adaptability, how they had learned to thrive in every corner of their hostile world. From the searing heart of the deserts to the frozen reaches of the poles, humans had found ways to carve out a life and a civilization. They learned of the humans' tenacity, the sheer stubborn refusal to give up in the face of adversity. Ambassador Mensa regaled them with tales of human perseverance, of individuals and communities who had faced the very worst that Earth could throw at them and had emerged, battered but unbroken, on the other side. And they learned of the humans' creativity, the spark of ingenuity that seemed to be woven into their very DNA. Faced with problems that would have stymied other species, humans had a way of thinking around corners, of coming up with solutions that were as innovative as they were effective. You have to understand, Mensa explained during one particularly fascinating discussion. For us, challenges aren't obstacles. They're opportunities. Every problem is a chance to learn, to grow, to push ourselves further than we've ever gone before. For Zorax and his crew, who came from the relatively stable and predictable worlds of the galactic community, it was a revelation. They had always assumed that the key to success was to minimize risk, to maintain the status quo. But the humans, with their chaotic, dangerous world, had shown them a different path. Sivera, in particular, was fascinated by the scientific and technological leaps that humanity had made. She spent long hours in discussion with human scientists and engineers, marveling at the innovative solutions they had developed to deal with the constant threats of their environment. "It's incredible," she remarked to Zorax one evening as they watched the sunset over the city. "They faced challenges that would have crushed most species, and yet they've turned those challenges into the very foundation of their progress." Zorax nodded, his eyes distant. He was thinking of his own people, the Xylothians, and how they had stagnated in recent generations. They had achieved stability, yes, but at what cost? They had lost the drive to explore, to discover, to push the boundaries of what was possible. Looking at the humans, with their indomitable spirit and their endless capacity for growth, he couldn't help but feel a sense of envy. And beneath that, a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this was what the galaxy needed. Not just another species to join the galactic community, but a catalyst for change. A reminder of what it meant to strive, to struggle, to reach ever upward even in the face of impossible odds. The humans had risen from the crucible of their Deathworld to stand on the cusp of the stars themselves. And now, as Zorax looked out over the city that they had built, he couldn't help but wonder. What might they achieve, given the chance? What heights might they reach, not just for themselves, but for the galaxy as a whole? It was a question that would define the future, and one that he was determined to see answered. An unprecedented proposal. The more time the Elucidator's crew spent on Earth, the more they came to appreciate the incredible potential of humanity. They had witnessed firsthand the resilience, ingenuity, and indomitable spirit of this remarkable species, and they knew that they could not simply leave and forget what they had seen. Zorax, in particular, was haunted by the implications of their discovery. He knew that the galactic community needed the humans, needed their drive, and their determination. But he also knew that the humans, for all their achievements, were still limited by the constraints of their harsh world. What might they achieve, he wondered, if they were given access to the resources and knowledge of the wider galaxy? How might they grow and flourish if they were freed from the constant struggle for survival? It was a question that consumed him, and one that he knew he could not answer alone. And so, with a sense of trepidation and excitement, he called for a meeting with Ambassador Mensa. "I have a proposal," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "One that could change the course of both our species' futures." Mensa leaned forward, his eyes curious. "I'm listening." Zorax took a deep breath. "I and my crew have been deeply impressed by what we've seen here. The tenacity and spirit of your people are like nothing we've encountered before. We believe that humanity has a great deal to offer the galaxy." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "We would like to extend an invitation for humanity to join the galactic community, to take your place among the stars, and to share your unique perspectives and abilities with the rest of the civilized galaxy." There was a long moment of silence. Mensa's expression was unreadable, a mix of surprise, contemplation, and something else that Zorax couldn't quite identify. "It's an intriguing offer," the ambassador said at last. but not one to be made lightly. Our world, harsh as it is, has shaped us. It is a part of who we are. To leave it behind. He trailed off, shaking his head. Zorax nodded, understanding. I know it's not an easy decision, but consider the opportunities. The chance to learn, to grow, to make a difference on a galactic scale. Your people. Mensa's expression was thoughtful, but there was a hint of wariness in his eyes. You said yourself that our world has shaped us, that the challenges we've faced have made us who we are. How can we be sure that we won't lose that identity, that drive, if we leave our home behind? It was a valid concern, and one that Zorax had grappled with himself. He knew that there were those in the galactic community who would fear humanity's unpredictable nature, who would seek to constrain or control them. But he also knew that the galaxy needed what the humans had to offer, now more than ever. I won't lie to you, he said, meeting Mensa's gaze squarely. There will be challenges. There will be those who misunderstand you, who fear what they cannot control. But I believe that humanity's spirit is stronger than that. I believe that you can hold onto your identity, your drive, while still embracing the opportunities of the wider galaxy. He leaned forward, his expression intense. More than that, I believe the galaxy needs you. We have grown complacent, stagnant. We need your perspective, your ingenuity, your resilience. Together, we could achieve things that neither of us could imagine alone. Mensa was silent for a long moment, weighing Zorax's words. The captain could see the conflicting emotions playing out across the ambassador's face, the excitement at the prospect of new horizons, the fear of losing what made them human. Finally, Mensa spoke. I will need to discuss this with my people. A decision of this magnitude cannot be made lightly, or by any one individual. But, he paused, a slow smile spreading across his face. But I believe you may be right, Captain Zorax. I believe that this may be humanity's destiny, not to cower on our Deathworld, but to take our place among the stars. Zorax felt a rush of emotion, relief, excitement, and a profound sense of the weight of this moment. He knew that they were standing on the precipice of history, that the decision made in the coming days would echo through the ages. Take the time you need, he said, his voice rough with emotion. But know that we stand ready to welcome you, not as subordinates or dependents, but as equals, as partners in the great journey of discovery that lies ahead. As he left the meeting, his mind buzzed with the possibilities of what was to come. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, misunderstandings, perhaps even conflicts. But he also knew that it would be a road worth traveling, for at the end of it lay a future brighter than any he had ever dared to imagine, a future in which humanity and a galactic community stood together, ready to face whatever the universe might bring. A new dawn. The day of humanity's ascension to the galactic community dawned bright and clear, the pale blue light of Earth's sun casting a hopeful glow across the proceedings. Representatives from every corner of the planet had gathered, their faces a mix of solemnity and barely contained excitement. Beside them stood the crew of the Elucidator, their uniforms gleaming in the morning light. Zorax stood at the front, his chest swelling with pride as he watched Ambassador Mensa step up to the podium. Today, Mensa began, his voice ringing out across the assembled crowd. We take a step into the unknown, a step into a future larger and more wondrous than any we have dared to imagine. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the sea of faces. It is a future that will challenge us, that will ask us to grow and change in ways we cannot yet foresee. But it is also a future of boundless potential, of endless opportunity. As he spoke, Zorax couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought them to this moment. The chance discovery of a Deathworld, the shock of finding intelligent life thriving against all odds, the slow realization of just how remarkable these humans truly were. It had been a journey of revelations, each one more profound than the last. And now, as he stood on the cusp of this new era, he knew that the revelations were only beginning. Mensa was coming to the end of his speech, his voice rising with emotion. And so it is with great pride and great humility that we, the people of Earth, accept the invitation to join the galactic community. Not as subordinates, but as partners, as fellow travelers on the great journey of discovery. The crowd erupted into cheers, a wave of sound that seemed to shake the very ground beneath their feet. Zorax found himself cheering along with them, caught up in the sheer historical significance of the moment. As the cheers began to subside, Mensa turned to Zorax, his hand outstretched. The captain took it, feeling the warmth and strength of the human's grip. "Thank you," Mensa said, his voice low and intense, "for believing in us, for giving us this chance." Zorax shook his head, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "It is we who should be thanking you, for reminding us of what it means to strive, to hope, to reach for something greater." As the ceremony concluded and the humans began to disperse, ready to take their first steps into a wider universe, Zorax found himself lost in thought. He thought of the challenges that lay ahead, of the inevitable conflicts and misunderstandings that would arise as humanity integrated into the galactic community. He thought of the fear and trepidation that some would feel at the idea of these unpredictable, indomitable beings taking their place among the stars. But more than that, he thought of the potential, of the incredible things that humanity might achieve, unshackled from the confines of their Deathworld, of the ways in which their unique perspective, their resilience and ingenuity, might reshape the galaxy itself. It was a future that was both terrifying and exhilarating, full of uncertainty and promise in equal measure. But as he watched the humans taking their first steps into this new dawn, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The universe would never be the same, and he suspected it would be all the better for it. For these humans, these survivors of a Class 13 Deathworld, were more than just another species. They were a force of nature, a catalyst for change and growth the likes of which the galaxy had never seen. And as they strode forward into the unknown, ready to take their place among the stars, Zorax couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The future, vast and untapped, lay before them, and with humanity at their side, he knew that they would face it head-on, with courage, with determination, and with the indomitable spirit that had carried them this far. It was a new dawn, a new era, and the galaxy would never be the same.